Welcome to the Tipsy Guest Podcast. I am your host, Marco Buenrostro, and every week I'm here with the top industry experts, amazing clients, and all my vendor BFFs to bring you the best tips, advice, and juicy behind-the-scenes stories to make wedding and event planning a breeze. So grab your favorite drink and let's get this party started! Hey guys, welcome back to the Tipsy Guest. I am Marco, your host, and today things are going to be a little different. I switched my glass of wine for coffee. So today we have Noah. Look at this, from Reunion Coffee. He owns a coffee cart for weddings and events. Yep. Hi, Noah.
Hey, Marco. How are you?
I am great now that I'm drinking coffee. Yeah. Oh, my God. People that know me, they know that I am obsessed with coffee. So I think today is probably one of my favorite episodes. Good. Thank you for bringing me coffee.
Yeah, I know. We've fueled you for a little bit of the week, too.
So what did you bring me today? What am I drinking right now?
So that is our bottled pumpkin spice latte. With oat milk, of course, as requested. So, yeah, that's something fun that we do for people that want to just grab a pick-me-up for the week. We do those individual or in 4-packs. So, a lot of people in our office love them. Yeah.
I love it. And I'm so thankful that you brought me extra so I can have for the week.
I got you.
All right. So when people think of coffee, they think of, let's have a coffee in the morning or, midday at work and stuff like that. But in the last few years, coffee carts have become a trendy subject. It's becoming a thing for weddings. I mean, I work weddings every weekend, and there's always coffee. Yep. With desserts or right towards the end of the wedding, everybody needs a little pick me up.
100%.
So how has it been? How long have you been in business? Let's start with that.
Yeah. So we launched back in early August
of 2024.
Yep. So about 3 months ago.
Okay. And how has it been? Have you been active on weddings? What are you mainly focusing on, I guess?
Yeah, it's been fun. Weddings have been a big focus in the beginning. We've been very grateful to be plugged in with a couple of really good venues that have, we were talking a little bit before this about just open houses and things like that. But it's been a good mixture of weddings and corporate. So a lot of different style events. We were just at a gym yesterday.
I saw that on your social media.
Never expected to serve coffee at a gym, but everyone needs caffeine.
That is so. Yeah, that is so cool. I mean, that you do a little bit of everything.
Yep.
But for example, at weddings, I guess when somebody calls you, or to inquire about your services, so you bring the cart.
Yep.
You set up either inside, outside, wherever the wedding is,
and
then do they specifically ask for certain flavors, certain things, or do you just bring stuff in general? How does that work? Walk us through the process of, if I was to book you for my wedding,
for sure,
that's non-existent. How is that conversation going to go with somebody that's inquiring to have you at their wedding?
For sure. So a lot of it starts off as far as when they want us, right? A lot of people ask, well, when do you typically come? And it's really up to the bride and groom. I know something that's become really popular recently is dry weddings. And so a lot of people, instead of doing your traditional cocktail hour after the ceremony, they're doing coffee hours. And so, as guests are leaving the ceremony, transition into the reception and dinner, we'll serve in that beginning time frame. Or there's also people that still love their alcohol and they need something to sober up at the end of the night once they start eating cake and desserts and things like that. So, it really starts there, figuring out what time we're going to be there.
I love that the coffee during cocktail hour. I was during coffee hour, I guess. Yeah. That is really cool. I don't think I've been to a wedding where they do that. Yep. That is interesting.
Yep. So we've had people for coffee hour specifically. Obviously, not everybody drinks coffee, too. So we're doing a wedding in November with a hot chocolate bar, too. And so we'll still do coffee. Hot chocolate's an add-on that we can do to our coffee cart package. So it's cool. We can get really creative with it.
I like it. And let's say, for example, if you are booked to serve coffee towards the end of the night, when do you normally set up? Right before you start, or do you set up the cart earlier in the day? How does that work?
Yeah, usually right before we start. The good thing with it being a cart, our setup is super simple. We can be set up and broken down within about 30 minutes.
Okay.
So we usually set all up outside, right outside of our car, and then we just roll everything in, plug it in, and let our machine start heating up, and then we're ready to serve.
I like that. And then when it comes to weddings, do you create custom items for like sometimes I've seen, like monograms incorporated into like the coffee little cups or napkins or things like that. How do you customize your experience for your couples?
For sure. I would say for everybody, definitely doing a signature menu, right? So we usually pick a drink for the bride, a drink for the groom, just based on their coffee preferences. Those tend to be, huge hits, just like you would do at a bar, right? There's usually a signature drink for the bride and groom, so why not for coffee? If they wanted to do something a little bit extra, and really enhance the experience for the guest, we've definitely done custom branded cups, right? So we'll take the monogram, like you said, for the bride and groom, or if they want to do their names with the wedding date, we can custom brand our hot and cold cups. And so it's just a little, extra experience for the guest.
I like that. And then I've also seen the ones where, they print like the actual monogram or a picture of them or something on top of like the actual coffee. Is that something that you guys do?
Yeah. So we're working on getting the machine. We should have it in December. So right in time for the, Christmas parties and all the stuff coming into the new year.
I feel like that is a very unique touch.
Yeah.
Like let's say you're at a wedding and then you go grab a cup of coffee and then you see the monogram on the actual coffee, like
or
that
their
is
face.
Yeah,
They're looking
seriously,
at me.
seriously. That I think that is so cool,
Yeah.
and it's definitely something that is very. People are going to take a picture of that and post it on Instagram. That is something that, people love taking photos and posting.
Yeah.
So I feel like that would be something that, couples should definitely consider because a very Instagrammable moment at their wedding.
One, I think too, obviously your traditional wedding coffee is the black coffee that comes out of a 5-gallon tank that the caterer brings with them. And so for us specifically, it's all about the experience, right? And in my personal life with the extra income that we bring in, it's not about the tangible things. It's about what experiences can we go create. And it's the same exact thing for us at, Reunion Coffee. It's how can we enhance that experience for the guests and stray away from your just traditional black coffee and literally bring a full coffee shop set up into your wedding.
I like that. That's how I see it as well. Like with my photo booth business, I always tell my couples, I'm like, we're not just renting you a machine to take photos. We're bringing an experience to your wedding. We're not just going to set up the machine and leave it there for your guests to figure it out. No, we are going to have a photo booth attendant that's going to be entertaining your guest. Sometimes people freeze in front of a camera. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes, they just don't know what to do. And we are there to help everybody get that perfect photo. Going back to everybody wanting to post stuff, that's exactly why we're there. We want to make sure that their photos look so good that they make that photo their profile picture all across social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love coffee.
Yeah.
So when it comes to me knowing things about coffee, of course, that's not a thing because I just order my drink and I drink it and I enjoy it. But I don't know a lot about coffee. So, for example, how many types of coffee do you offer? Or I guess educate me on that because I don't even know how to ask the right question here.
Yeah, for sure.
How many different types or styles or whatever you call it, talk to me about that.
Yeah, so our traditional menu is like your traditional coffee shop menu, and we keep it somewhat more simple just because, for me, I do appreciate the actual taste of coffee. I've gotten to that point where I can drink a shot of espresso by itself, and that's not something that you start off enjoying, but you tend to appreciate it, and it can tell the difference between good and bad coffee. So with our menu, right, starts with, if someone wants to order a shot of espresso, they can do that. We move up to an Americano, which is just espresso and water. And so for people that don't like as much of the sugary, milky flavors, they just want more traditional coffee, we can do that. Cappuccino, very similar to a latte, a little bit less milk, but more foam. So it's a little bit more foamy on the top. And then your lattes, right? So that's like every traditional when someone says iced coffee, that's typically what they're talking about.
Okay.
So you've got your espresso, your milk, your flavors in there. And so that's really where the customization comes into play when you start talking about flavors. I know you mentioned it earlier. We typically, we've got a wide selection of flavors. I know I mentioned a couple of them to you when we were talking about your order for today.
Yeah.
But pumpkin spice is on the list, just in case they were wondering.
Okay. Which is during this season, it's like the most popular item. I'm sure.
It's pumpkin spice season. That's exactly right.
I love it.
So.
When it comes to, I guess the concept of your business.
Yeah.
How did you come up with it?
Yeah. So we, long time ago, I know we were talking a little bit before, I started off in the real estate space, fourth generation, and grew my real estate business in Louisiana from a coffee shop. Then we transitioned to move to Austin. That's where I really started to appreciate good coffee. And, we were talking about your dog coffee shop earlier. I wanted to open a coffee shop. And, I started looking into it, doing the research, getting the same ads like you were talking about. And really started understanding the business side with, overhead and expenses. I was like, man, this isn't really realistic in this time frame.
Yeah.
And then when my wife and I got married, we celebrate our 2-year anniversary Wednesday of this week.
Oh, nice.
So
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We had a coffee cart, and I was like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. And so from that point, I started doing a lot more research on coffee carts specifically. You said the trend is growing. I was able to find a coffee cart community based out of Denver with, people that have launched multiple coffee carts, in multiple different cities.
Wow.
Which is really cool. And so I've just been trying to surround myself with the right people, but, learning from things that they're doing. So, yeah.
That's so cool. I went to a coffee tour in Bali one time.
Yep.
And it was so interesting. I never knew where coffee came from. I would just drink it. I mean, I've been drinking coffee since I can remember. I mean, when I was little, I would drink coffee with my mom.
Yep.
And, sometimes people are like, well, why are you giving coffee to a kid?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a drink. Yeah, I mean, it's better to give me coffee than a beer, when I'm 7 years old.
Yep. That's exactly right.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did a tour. In Bali, and then I think I did a coffee tasting in Colombia.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
And then I know I did another one. I think we were in Cabo, and we did one in Cabo. I mean, I try to do coffee.
You're making me so jealous.
Like,
right now.
I try to do. Some people love to do like the tequila tasting.
Yeah.
Some people like to do the wine tasting.
Yep.
I love wine tasting.
Yeah.
But I love a coffee tasting or a coffee tour just of,
It's
in
cool.
general. It's so good to taste different things and see how it all comes together.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So I might be visiting your office soon,
Yeah.
just so you can show me how you do everything there.
There's so much more. I think that when we moved to Austin, I started realizing, hey, it is more than just a cup of coffee, right? It's, you go all the way back to wherever they're sourcing the coffee. So we use a blend from Peru and Guatemala. Work with a really great roaster out of Sioux City, Iowa. I did not know that Sioux City, Iowa was a place until
coffee.
I started working with this roaster. But it's cool because it's fair trade. I think a lot of it goes back to not only, you're drinking a cup of coffee, going back to where did it come from? They're grown on coffee farms, but also making sure that the people that work on those farms are taken care of.
Yeah.
There's a very extensive process that you go through to have your coffee marked as organic, fair trade. And so just knowing that it's a good cup of coffee, but that it came from people that are taken care of very well, I think is super important to me. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like you love what you do.
Yeah,
so
it's fun.
That is the best part. When as a for our listeners out there, it's important to hire someone that's passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
It sounds like you are really into it. So I'm very excited for you guys.
Yeah.
I know you said you just recently started the business, so I know that coffee is so popular. So I know you guys are gonna go places, and I'm sure I'm gonna start seeing you everywhere around weddings.
That's the plan.
So let's talk about prices.
Yeah.
That's something, of course, that our listeners are always wanting to know.
Yeah.
When it comes to other different topics that we cover here at the Tipsy Guest.
Yep.
How much does it cost to get you guys out to a wedding? Yep. I'm sure it depends on the guest count and what they need and stuff like that. So I guess just walk us through different scenarios here.
Yeah, for sure. So our base pricing starts at $750. What that covers is up to 2 hours of service. one professional barista, and up to about 100 guests. So the way that we come up with that is we can serve roughly about 50 guests an hour per barista per cart, right? So we could add, if the guest count's above 100 in that 2-hour time frame or however long they were wanting service for, we would either add another hour of service, which, we would increase the cost for that. It's $150 an hour that we add. Or we could add another barista. With another barista, we could probably get to 75 drinks an hour.
Okay.
So get up to about, 150 or so in that 2-hour period with 2 baristas. And so that's where our base starts. We can do additional add-ons too. I know I mentioned the hot chocolate earlier.
Yeah.
We can do your, plain black drip coffee if that's something that, I know a lot of the grandparents, they're not about the lattes.
They
and
go with the
pumpkin
basic
spice.
stuff.
They're
Yeah.
like, just give me the black coffee.
That's my mom. She
Yeah.
does not like any of the cool stuff.
Yeah.
She just wants plain coffee.
Yep. What's a latte? A what?
Yeah. Every time she comes for Christmas, I have to get her just plain coffee, and she has to make it herself. She won't let me do it. It's so crazy, but it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can add on a bunch of cool stuff, or even do custom branding like we had talked about. So a lot of fun different things that we can do. I think for me, like I said, it all goes back to the experience for the guest, and so it's not as much about is it practical for me, but is it possible? And if it's possible, then I'm down to find a way to make it work for the guest and for the bride and groom.
Awesome. And right now that you talk about the best experience for the guest, do you, in your personal opinion, do you think it would be better to add a second person or add an extra hour with one person working the event? I
think it depends on the scenario. For me, I'm a big advocate in 2 people. So sometimes even if it is, maybe they just book one, sometimes my wife will come with me and help out because I do, I think whenever you get that one person and you start calculating 50 drinks an hour, that is like, hey, I'm making coffee
nonstop.
I'm not talking it's not the chit chat small talk. And so,
when you go to the bar and you sit there and talk to the bartender.
Yes. Yeah. That's not what happens when you're serving 50 drinks an hour. And so I'm a big advocate for 2 baristas, even if it's 100 guests, right? And that's part of, so when someone submits an inquiry, I'm also not the type to just send a quote out immediately. I always want to get on the phone and talk through your event more, because I've had a lot of scenarios where, in the beginning I would send out a quote and they maybe didn't understand some of the questions on the form, or I could have worded them different. And so we were just on different pages. And so I like to get a better, big picture concept of the event and then make recommendations. And then I'll send a quote out for that event.
So let's say, for example, what are 2 questions that are brought up during a conversation with a potential client? Yeah,
I think that the alcohol piece is a big one, right? So if they're still serving alcohol, typically that will mean that more people are going to drink coffee, right? So if that's the case, if you have a wedding of 100 people and you do have alcohol, I understand not everyone's going to drink coffee. And so that may mean that it makes more sense to just stick with one barista, right? We could probably serve, we'd probably end up from that group serving 50 to 75 cups of coffee in that 2-hour period, which is totally doable with one barista. That's a big one. I think for us too is indoor outdoor is another big one, because if it's outdoor and it's cold, especially this time of year, we've been running a lot of outdoor weddings, and so a lot of people are going to drink hot lattes, hot coffee, and so really figuring out, all right, the hot drinks take a little bit longer to make than the ice drinks, and so we might need that additional backup, or we might want to do an extra hour. And also depending on the overview of the wedding, I think that's another big one is, hey, we've had people that only want us in the beginning. They only want us towards, the cake and the end of the evening. Some people want us there the whole time.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's figuring out, what really makes the most sense. But I think a big part of that is, what does the whole night look like altogether?
Okay. And do you guys do, right now that you mentioned hot or drink coffee, are both part of the package, or do they have to select one or the other?
They're both part of the package. Yeah. So we do hot and iced lattes. We can do the Americanos, hot or iced. The espresso cappuccinos are both, they're hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can do hot and iced lattes and Americanos.
Oh my God, it sounds like a really cool package.
Yeah.
And again, now that it's becoming a trend for weddings, It's, how can couples find you? Website, social media, talk to us.
Yeah.
Let our listeners know where they can find you.
Yeah, we try to make it really easy across the board. So website is reunioncoffeecart.com. Our Instagram is reunioncoffeecart. They can also, I'm very big on, being able to reach me as quick as possible. So I just use my cell phone for everything. So we can put up my number in the show notes if we want to. So
definitely. Yeah. We'll have your website, your social media, your phone number, everything. I text all the time.
Easy.
I like it when people text me, like even on my voicemail greeting, because sometimes I'm running around from event to event or doing setups or meetings or whatever. So even my greeting says, hey, send me a text message. I'll get back to you.
Yep.
Like if you're inquiring for an event, just send me all the details and I'll text you right back. And then we can schedule a phone call and then, go from there.
Exactly.
It's easier. Sometimes people send me DMs and I deal with people through DMs. I just like texting better than a phone call because I keep a log of what we talked about. Because if somebody calls me, I can be making my little notes.
Right.
But let's say if somebody calls me as I'm driving, then I'm not making notes.
No.
So I forget. So I'm always like, whenever that happens, I just tell them, like, hey, can you send me a quick text message right after we hang up?
Yep.
And just, give me the details one more time on the text because I'm going to forget.
Absolutely. I would do the same exact thing. Yep.
Awesome. All right, Noah. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I am excited for you guys, and I am excited for my coffee that you brought me again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So to our listeners, thank you again for tuning in this week. As you know, every week we have different vendors for tips and advice for your wedding. So if you know someone that's getting married, let them know about the podcast. If you're the one getting married, send us a DM. Let us know what you thought of the episode, or if you have any topics that you would like for us to cover. We are here to listen. And if you have a favorite vendor, let us know. We'll reach out to them. We'll interview them. We'll have a fun conversation. Educational, of course. But it's always about fun. This podcast is always about having fun as we're, giving you the best advice for your wedding, because we want to make sure that it's a good day for you, not a stressful one. So, we make it easy for you as we discuss different topics with our interviews here at the Tipsy Pod. I'm not even drinking today during this episode.
You haven't had enough coffee.
I know. I am going to finish.
So.
I'm going to finish this coffee right now as a shot. Anyways, I'm out, guys. See you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Tipsy Guest Podcast. If you know someone who could benefit from these tips, spread the love and share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Next round's on us. Same time, same place. Cheers! This podcast is brought to you by MVP Photo Booth, the #1 photo booth rental company in San Antonio, Austin, and Central Texas.